Hello folks, Ariel Burley outside of Fy Nyth here, where I wanted to show you the bird feeder setup I have. So they need fed. You can probably see all the feeders are empty. And I did a little video about this quite a while ago. I don't remember exactly when, several years ago when I first put this setup up. So I got started feeding birds with this little feeder that my lovely friend Moose gave me at one point when he didn't have a use for it anymore. And so I have to blame him for all the good things that have come of that. Because I'll be honest, this isn't the most awesome little feeder by any means. In fact, if you're going to go by, they're not very patient. If you could see that little chickadee come in and land on my hands. Not ready to wait for me to hang it back up. I would not recommend you buy one of those, actually, but it is what got me started doing this. Because he gave it to me, I thought, well, I have it here, may as well put it out. I got some birds around here, see what happens. Took them a while, they found it. This was years ago now. And I have really enjoyed working with my bird partners ever since. Now, there is feeders I would recommend, and that is this kind, which you'll see are the ones I've bought are like this. So there's this inside tube that you could probably just see me fill, and the outside goes on like that, and the handle hooks back on here, and clip it back onto there. Now that is set up so that there's a little bit of a spring, so if something heavy sits on one of these, like a really big bird like a magpie or a squirrel or something like that, it slams closed and hi there. And there's no way that larger thing can get into the feeder. So while I don't mind if the squirrels, which if I wasn't standing here they would be doing, pick up any spilled seeds and such, they could eat probably 50 pounds of sunflower seeds in a day and pack them all up and bury them. And that's not really what I want to do. I'm not trying to increase the squirrel population here so much. So these feeders, I do highly recommend. I've had these for quite a few years now. They basically look like new. Show you a little more close up how this works. So to fill it, I pull this off. There's usually a little bit of the sunflower kind of chaff from the stems in the bottom there, since they don't eat it, so I tap that out. I have my super expensive bird food recycled yogurt container scoop there. You just fill that up, and this sleeve, it's easier to do if I set it down, slips right over that whole thing. And the little handle hooks into there. And again, this is how you get the, I'm going to have another bird land on, that springy motion. If you see how that works. So you see how if something heavy sits on it, it slams closed and the heavy object cannot get into the feeder. I have a lot of squirrels here, and I have in years never ever had a normal tree squirrel get in to one of those feeders. This is my little locking metal bucket so that nothing can get into this whole bucket. Probably get them at your local hardware store or feed store. I've had them for years now too. But that's what I keep the feed in so nothing can chew in, it can't get wet. Hi there. And it's locked closed. So it's something, just try to, if you can't pull the lid off when it's like this, you have to actually move the handle. Something may be able to figure that out, nothing ever has. So, back to the feeders. I have lots and lots of tree squirrels. They have never figured this out. The only thing I have to admit I have seen get on it is flying squirrels. I have a few of them. They only come out at night, but because they don't have to climb, they can fly. And I still, it's hard to see because they're only out in the pitch dark. And as soon as you bring a flashlight out or something, they all scatter. I still don't think they get anything out of this one, but there's a reason in this chain of feeders that this guy's toward the middle. They can sit on this one because it doesn't have any of that technology and they eat some seeds. There's not that many of the flying squirrels. I don't mind, they can eat a few. This one is empty right now because it is a finer mesh. The rest of these just have pure black oil sunflower seeds. That's a really good supplement food for the birds here in the winter because they're both high in protein and fat. This holds a thistle seed or Niger seed, and it's specifically enjoyed by finches. I don't tend to have any of those finches around here in the winter. I do have some pine siskins, which are in the finch family, but even they in the winter don't ever seem to touch this. They go for the sunflower seeds then. So I just leave this feeder empty in the winter, and in the summer I fill that back up some. But the sunflower seeds I do year round, and these little guys want this thing to go back in the air, so I'm not being all spooky here standing beside. So this is on a pulley system. One real quick question, if you have been watching the last few videos about our baby girl moose, she is not here right now. She's come and gone quite a few times, and now she's been gone for a few days. I think partly because she ate every single twig in this area that she could consume, and so now she's wandering further afield to look for more food. So she is not here right now. There are rules about feeding birds in my area too, primarily that the feeders need to be inaccessible to bears. And again, that is much like with the moose, that is for the safety of the bears, so we don't end up getting, you know, humans and bears into conflicts that get either side of that equation killed. Kind of the same reason I don't feed moose. Feeding a moose is one of the fastest ways to get them killed, unfortunately. You can see how scared the birds are of me. They're a little timid. There'd be a lot more here if I wasn't standing right here. So yeah, baby girl is doing fine. Last time I saw her, presumably she will continue to do fine as long as no big predator finds her and changes that. So these are set up to be bear-proof, among other things. It also doubles, in my experience of having made them squirrel-proof, coon-proof. I know some places people have deer that try to eat out of their bird feeders. If you could see the trees right over my head, they're just hovering there waiting for me to put this back up. I don't have any of those problems, so let me show you how this works. You can see how I drop this down, makes it real easy. I can reach all of my different feeders. While I'm looking at this here, these are just little tiny carabiners, and they're knotted into this paracord string. So go over here and show you how to hang it up. So this is the far end. You can see how when they're fully sitting on the ground, I have just a little bit of slack in this cord. And there's a pulley. This is just an eye bolt. And there's a pulley up there, probably about 13 feet off the ground. And so this slides super smooth. Very, very easy. This is almost no effort at all, even with 3 full feeders on there. They've probably gone up and out of the picture. Anyway, when I pull this fully taut, they are well above my head. And then I simply anchor this. You could probably come up with something fancier. I just wrap it about 3 times there, so it's almost like a friction hitch, and give that a loop. And then I tuck the tails up just so neither myself or Burley or anything trips on the tails, and that all hangs there just like that. And now the feeders, if I get off the ice pile here and back down to the ground, are well over my head. So you can, I'm not even on the ground here, there's still some ice and snow under the seeds here where you can't really see it because of their drop seed shells, but that is good ways up there. I'm not that far off from being 6 foot tall myself. And the purpose for that, both the height distance this way and the distance all the feeders are out from either this tree trunk or that tree trunk, is primarily to prevent bears from being able to get in the feeders and cause conflicts for everybody. It has so far worked completely foolproof for me, because if a bear climbed the tree, they can only reach out, so far, and they wouldn't be able to reach the feeder that direction. And even a big grizzly standing on her hind legs here should not be able to reach up to there from the ground. So this has worked really well. Like I said, it also, because it's out of reach of the bears, I haven't seen any squirrels get, they probably could run down that wire, but if they get to a feeder, they still can't get in because it just slams closed. So it doesn't work well for them, and no coon or anything else has managed to get into it. Burley thinks the birds are his personal squeaky toys that fly in the air over his head and sometimes drive him a little crazy. The one weakness I think this has is this is just like a paracord rope that I have on there. It's been nice. I already had the rope laying around when I built this, and it slides super smooth. If I ever had anything big or small, figure out how to chew through that cord, because obviously if you cut this, the whole thing would come crashing down. if anything ever figured that out, my plan was to replace it with some like wash line cable where you've got a actual thin metal cable encased in plastic, because I think again that would slide pretty well. I'd have to figure out how to put my little carabiner clips onto it, since it'd probably be a little harder to just tie around them than I did with the string, but that would be my plan, because I don't think anything could chew through that. I have not had that problem, but if I did, that was my backup plan, to replace that with a metal cable that was chew proof. But this has been working, and there are many, many reasons you could feed the birds. I obviously live in a snowy climate. It's kind of spring here. It's getting to be a little bit muddy in places, and the snowbanks are tall still, and it's snowing today. That is spring here. But in addition to watching them come and go over my head, just for fun, I'm going to lower this while we're talking. In addition to the great pleasure I get from just watching and listening to them. And so you see and often actually in the middle of winter, I leave this feeder more at that level, well, a little higher than that usually, but because in the middle of the winter the bears should all be hibernating. This is why some people only feed their birds in the middle of winter anyway, but with the bears hibernating, I'm not worried about a bear reaching it, and that's still out of reach of pretty much everything else. But it allows me to, if I want to enjoy looking at the birds a little more at eye level, to do that. But the other big benefit I found since getting that little first feeder from Moose and giving it a try is that these birds do a lot of work for me. They are not just freeloaders. Totally in addition to just the enjoyment I get from watching, like that's a little black-capped chickadee. We've got several varieties of chickadees here, that's one of them. Totally in addition to that, especially in the summer, these guys are on constant bug patrol. Just like you probably realize you can't survive forever on just eating potato chips and French fries, birds cannot survive solely on the fat and such in the seeds, though it's very helpful with their energy during the cold months. That's why birds naturally look for seeds. But they also eat a lot of bugs for good protein-rich meal sources. Now, when my garden, which you can't see at all right now because it's under several feet of snow still, is growing in the summer, a lot of people ask me what I do about controlling various bug pests. I have two big things going for me there. The number one thing being it's cold much of the year here, so there are less bugs than places in more southerly climates. I'm fairly sure that has something to do with it. But another thing is that these little guys patrol all the time. Come here, baby boy. I want him to come so the camera can see him, not have you chase him right now. Sit. Stay there. Good boy. Just stay. I'm got to talk for a sec. They're on patrol all the time. My loft window up in the loft of the house looks directly over the garden, so literally when I first open my eyes in the morning with my head still on the pillow, I'm looking at my garden, which I really enjoy. But I look out there and I see, a lettuce plant sitting there with its leaves like this, or a broccoli with broader leaves or whatever, and these little birds are all over the garden. They're like hopping under leaves and hopping back out and pecking at invisible specks that I can't see. And this year, I think I grew just for example, 40 heads of cabbage, and I think I found 2 total cabbage worms, and they were way down in the heart of the cabbage. Even my first year gardening here, I had more than that, but I'm pretty sure the reason I have so few now is because I have hundreds of these little buddies on constant bug patrol. And if I spent all day in the garden with a magnifying glass looking for little bugs and larvae and whatever all the birds find, there's no way I would be able to do as efficient a job as they do all that. Plus they help control the mosquito population, which just makes it more pleasant to sit outside on the swing or one of the chairs in the evening in the summer and all of that kind of thing. So these guys work for me as well. And so between that benefit and then just the beauty and enjoyment of getting to watch them, that is totally worth it for me. But I wanted to mainly share how I do this feeder setup and how I think probably anybody could duplicate it. If you don't have grizzly bears in your area that are a potential issue. You probably do have squirrels, deer, coons, something else that you try to keep out of the feeder. And this is the only place I've used it, so that's all I can vouch for personally. But I've been feeding birds here for, I guess, going on 5 years now, I think. And have not had anything unwanted be able to get into the feeders at all. So a similar setup may well work for you, and you wouldn't have to have 2 trees. I would think it could be really easy to do from like, you know, a house wall out to a post, a telephone pole, a lamp post, another tree, whatever, because then you could potentially lower it and actually, you know, work it from even inside your house if you had a desire to do that. But it's really handy because, as you can see, there's no straining or reaching or needing to climb on a ladder or anything like that to be able to. There's a little junco on the ground behind me. They don't ever come up on the feeders. They're ground feeders, so they do clean up spilled seed. I don't know if you can see them on the snow. But with no stress and effort, it's really easy to do that. And then the feeders are back up. And in the summer, I do keep that pulled taunt where they're the whole way up high. And I'm going to put it back up here in a minute because this is the time of year. There's actually, it's a bunch of the male grizzlies have already started waking up. The single ladies and the mamas with cubs don't get up quite this early. So there could be a bear here. But we're going to make sure we keep us and the bears safe and let the birds enjoy doing their thing. But anyway, I thought maybe that would give you guys some ideas if you've, because I see a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to feed birds, but I can't because of, you know, XYZ that gets into my feeders. This would also be, I don't have cats around, well, I have mountain lions. Don't have house cats around here because there's too many other predators that eat them all. So that's not a danger, but I think that would be a fairly safe bird feeding setup even if you had a big predation problem for your birds with house cats, because a cat is not going to get anywhere onto that setup either. So the birds would be able to, again, come and go and eat safely. So we're going to put this back up the rest of the way nice and snug where it belongs. And again, you can see how easy that is even with full feeders. Just pull them up there till it's snug. After that first hitch, the rope's kind of holding itself because of the friction, and it would probably stay just like that, but I do that little half hitch just to be sure, and then try to keep us all from tripping on the extra cable that's loose then. Now you can probably see the big guys coming in. So this video is going to run a little longer. Okay, you can get up, good boy. Because now I'm just going to show you some footage of what the birds are like on this thing when I'm not standing right under it talking to you. But I thought you might enjoy that. Hopefully it's helpful either if you know, are looking to how to do a bird feeder setup, and you wouldn't have to, of course, put 4 feeders on like that. You could do 1 or maybe even more. If you did too many and they were too big, you of course could have a problem with it getting too heavy to pull up easily, but that I find quite easy. So now the rest of this video is not going to really be more information. It's just going to be fun of getting to watch the birds, because I know this channel has a few cat fans among others who really like that. Hope you all have a lovely day. folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you were here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.